Bell was an ugly, lonely, and weak F-rank adventurer that everyone bullied and no one wanted. But upon finding his own goddess, he was able to awaken his strongest SS-rank skill. Bell working as a weak and lonely adventurer attempting to make money by slaying monsters in the underground dungeon. We meet Bell as he is being chased by a minotaur, but when he got to a dead end, he was about to be destroyed like a tiny weakling. He was suddenly saved by a scantily clad and beautiful girl who slices the minotaur into two, giving him a taste of its blood. The lady, who happens to be Ais, the sword princess, asks Bell if he is alright, but he is unable to answer her because he is struck by her beauty.
Oh my god! Wow!
While covered in blood, Bell runs to the Adventurers Guild, and as everyone wonders what is wrong with him, he immediately calls out on Ina, who is an attendant in the guild, to tell him about Ais. There, he explains to Ina about his encounter on the 5th floor of the dungeon, which makes her begin to scold him as she tells him how dangerous the dungeon itself is. After listening to Ina, Bell asks her to tell him about Ais. Looking at him, Ina asks if he has developed some feelings towards Ais, and Bell accepts that he has a strong feeling towards Ais.
Wait a minute!
Realizing this, Ina explains to Bell that Ais belongs to the Loki Familia, who is also in level 5, and she was named the Sword Mistress by the gods. Still curious about Ais, Bella asks Ina if Ais has any male partner, but she tells him she is not sure. Also because he belongs to the Hestia Familia and got his blessings from the goddess Hestia. It would not be easy for him to look into Ais, or at least be her partner.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
Bell becomes disappointed and goes to submit his gems to get money. But before he leaves, Ina advises him that ladies like Ais can only get attracted to stronger men, and if he works hard, he might gain her favor someday. Because of this, Bell becomes motivated and excited, which makes him tell Ina he loves her, shocking her as she immediately wonders why she spoils him so much. On his way home, Bell remembers what his grandfather had told him about getting girls in the dungeon as an adventurer. At this moment, Bell decides that he would make sure he works hard enough to be able to get the girl of his dreams. On getting home, Bell tells his goddess, Hestia, how he almost died in the dungeon. Hearing this, Hestia gets scared, as she starts to check his body to see if he is hurt. Seeing how much she cares, Bell assures her that he would not abandon her, because he is the only member of her familia. Then he notices that she has made dinner and proceeds to ask her how she got food. Hestia tells him she got the food from the booth where she works part-time. Then she also suggests that they have a party while eating dinner. As they both eat, Hestia tells Bell how she is not able to find anyone to join her familia and begins to feel bad. Seeing her sad, Bell assures her they would be okay since she is trying her best to fend for them.
Did you pray today?
Also, Hestia feels bad because she is unable to use her divine powers, but Bell assures her they would be fine, which makes Hestia excited as she tells him how happy she is to meet him. Later that night, Hestia checks Bell's stats, telling him how she feels about Ais, and when she begins to sound angry, Bell asks why she is getting worked up, but she denies it.
Yep.
However, while checking Bell's stats, Hestia notices something, and when she shows Bell his stats, he becomes disappointed after realizing he has no skills and he is unable to use magic yet. Disappointed, Bell leaves the room, and Hestia begins to wonder how children in the lesser sphere change easily. Then Hestia reveals what she had scraped off in a paper, and tells herself that Bell possesses the realist phrase skill where he would be able to grow and mature easily. She also adds that he is able to unlock the skill because of Ais, and that alone is getting her angry. The following morning, Bell wakes up and sees Hestia sleeping on his chest, which makes him become scared as he immediately hurries out. On his way to the dungeon, Bell meets a beautiful girl who gives him a gem, telling him that he had dropped it. Confused, Bell collects the gem and the girl asks if he is going to the dungeon that early, but before he could reply to her, his stomach begins to make some angry noises. Seeing this, the girl immediately gives him a box of food containing her breakfast, but Bell tries to refuse it. Then she shows him the restaurant where she works and tells him he could also eat there when they open. The girl tells him to promise her he would stop by to eat in their restaurant that evening in exchange for the food she gave him. Bell agrees and makes his way to the dungeon, where he begins to lament how he would keep up with Ais so as to be worthy to have her. Suddenly, he sees monsters coming his way and decides to kill them all for Ais' sake. Later that night, Hestia shows Bell his results, which makes him so excited to see how much he has grown. But Hestia seems angry as she hisses at him, telling him to go have dinner alone while she goes to a party at her part-time job. Seeing her act this way, Belle becomes confused, but unknown to him, Hestia goes to a path to sit by herself, as she wonders how much Belle likes Ace for him to grow that much of his skill. Also, she laments on why he would feel like that towards Ace when he has her.
Wait a minute!
Meanwhile, Belle goes to the restaurant where the girl he met earlier that day works, and upon seeing him, the girl becomes excited, and then introduces herself as Sir Flover. There Belle sits, and he is given different type of foods to eat. At that moment, the owner of the restaurant named Mamma Mia meets him and tells him how cute he is for an adventurer. Surprised, Belle begins to calculate the amount of food given to him and realizes how much he would spend without asking for the food he is given. However, another attendant announces the arrival of their guests who made a reservation. But when the guests enter the restaurant, Belle immediately recognizes them as the members of the Loki Familia, but gets astounded when he sees Az. There, Sire tells him that the Loki Familia are the regular customers, which makes Belle decide to keep coming to the restaurant as a way to always see Az.
Oh my god! Wow!
After a while, one of the members of the Loki Familia named Beat tells Az to tell the story of how she saved a boy who was so scared of a minotaur. At this point, Belle knew he was the one they were talking about. Then he became angry and pained that Az had told the rest of her familia about how scared he was. However, Az decides to keep mute, but Beat continues to tell the story while the listeners laugh, until another member of the familia cautions him and tells him to stop. Beat ignores her and turns to Az to ask her who she would pick between himself and the boy she met in the dungeon, since the boy cannot stand next to her because he is a loser. Hearing this, Belle gets angry and immediately runs out of the restaurant, while the people there think he ran because he does not have any money to pay. But Az also runs outside at that moment, as she begins to wonder if Belle is the same boy she met in the dungeon. Meanwhile, Belle goes to the dungeon to kill more monsters, telling himself he would do what he must to get stronger. The following morning, Hestia begins to get worried as she did not see Belle, until suddenly she sees him coming towards her, and when he gets to where she is, he breaks down in tears, telling her of his desire to get stronger. To start with, Hestia checks Belle's stats and tells him how much he has grown from the last time she checked it, which makes him become very excited as he knows he is getting strong.
Oh my god! Wow!
Then they both assure themselves that they would help each other grow. After their discussion, Hestia informs Belle that she would not be able to come home for 2 to 3 days because she wants to attend a party meant for gods and goddesses, which he agrees to. Later, Belle goes to the restaurant where Sir works and apologizes to Mamma Mia for not paying up the previous day. After apologizing, Sir asks him if he is going to the dungeon, which he tells her he is. Then she offers him another box of food for his trip to the dungeon, and he thanks her for her kindness. But before he leaves, Mamma Mia advises him to be careful in the dungeon because his life and safety is supposed to be his top priority. Hearing this, Belle thanks her for the advice and he leaves. Meanwhile, at the gods' party, Hestia is caught by the goddess of beauty, Freya, while stuffing her face with food, but while they exchange pleasantries, they get interrupted by Loki. Because of this, Hestia gets angry and asks Loki what she is looking for in the party, which makes Loki tell her she does not need any permission to attend the party. Also, Hestia asks Loki about Az, so as to know if she has any man she is seeing, but Loki immediately tells her not to ask her about Az, because she is her own favorite, and she would kill anyone who tries to trouble her. During this conversation, Freya integrates as she asks Loki why she has worn a lovely dress. Then, Loki tells her she dresses nice because she does not want to be seen as a poor god. Belle, on the other hand, tries to follow the other adventurers to the dungeon, but on their way, he admires the different weapons some of the adventurers possess, but gets distracted when he hears an adventurer talking about a tournament called the Monster Philia. Meanwhile, at the party, Hestia and Loki begin a brawl, as Loki pinches Hestia's cheeks. But in the end, Loki goes home crying after being insulted by Hestia. There, Hestia hears another god's voice, and immediately recognizes the person as Hephaestus. Then she suddenly begins to jump for joy as she tells Freya and Hephaestus that she came to the party to see Hephaestus. Hearing this, Hephaestus immediately tells her that she would not lend her more money, but Hestia pleads that she has changed, as she is only looking for how she would help her familia. At that moment, Freya tells Hephaestus and Hestia that she wants to go and sort something since she only came to the party to confirm something.
Wait a minute!
Then she also adds that she is tired of tasting all the men in the party and wants to try out new stuffs, then she leaves. There, Hephaestus asks Hestia what she wants from her, and Hestia tells her she wants her to forge a weapon for Bel, which, unknown to her, Bel is already checking out some weapons. And at that moment, Bel meets another god named Maich. There, Bel asks Maich why he did not attend the party of the gods, and he replies that he is busy preparing some things for his own familia. However, Maich gives Bel some magic potions, which he refuses at first but later accepts and thanks Maich for his kindness. Meanwhile, at the party, Hestia bows down to Hephaestus that he should help her to forge the weapon for Bel, because she wants to help Bel as he is trying to be better. After much persuasion, Hephaestus agrees to make the weapon, and tells Hestia that she would be her personal assistant. She as well adds that they have both agreed that Hestia would pay her for the weapon later. Hearing this, Hestia becomes happy, but she gets more excited when Hephaestus tells her she would forge the weapon herself, which makes Hestia begin to hail her as the god of smith. The following day, Bel begins to wonder if Hestia would return that day until he suddenly hears someone calling out to him. And when he looks back, he sees an attendant of the restaurant he met Sir. There, the attendant named Ania tells him that she wants him to help them give a purse to Sar, who skipped her work to go to the monster philia. Bel agrees to take the purse to her, but asks Ania what the monster philia event is all about. Ania explains that the event is a huge yearly event, held by the Genisha Familia, where a lot of adventurers show off their powers by defeating some monsters they captured from the dungeon in a huge arena filled with spectators. However, Hephaestus eventually finished forging a knife for Bel, which makes Hestia become excited and asks Hephaestus if she can take it to Bel immediately. But Hephaestus tells her not to forget the money she owes her. In Loki's house, she is visited by a god, whom she asks what she has come to do at her place. Then the god tells Loki of how she is interested in Bel and how beautiful and attractive he is.
Oh my god! Wow!
Hearing this, Loki begins to insult the god for eyeing young men to fulfill her desires. On getting to the tournament, Bel sees how crowded the place is and tries to go and find Sar. All of a sudden, he hears his name and becomes shocked, only for him to see Hestia there. He asks her how she came back suddenly, and she tells him how she wants them to go on a date for them to spend time together.
Wait a minute!
Hestia drags Bel as they go to get some street food and feed each other while sitting under a tree. But unknown to them, the god that is after Bel goes to where the monsters are kept and teases them, while telling herself that she wants him to grow stronger. While on their date, Bel and Hestia suddenly hear a loud noise as everyone is running for their lives. Seeing the huge monster running, Bel and Hestia realize that the monster is after them, and they both begin to also run for their lives. Suddenly, Bel sees that the monster is about to attack Hestia and tries to attack it, but his sword breaks into pieces in the process.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
Then, he decides to hide Hestia, telling her he would distract the monster for her to escape, because he does not want to lose any of his family again. Bel tells Hestia this because he remembers how he lost his grandfather and has decided not to lose Hestia, as well since she is his only family. At the arena, Venetia is told that some monsters have escaped, but when he asks about the guards that are kept there, he is informed that the guards have been charmed. Then he instructs his men to seek help from other gods and familias, so as to recover the missing monsters and also find whoever was behind it. While Bel continues to fight the huge monster, Hestia is able to escape but falls down while holding the knife she wanted to present to Bel, and at that moment she remembers what Hephaestus had told her about it. Meanwhile, Ina gets the information about the missing monsters and immediately tells the girl who told her about the news not to make noise about it so as to prevent the people present from panicking. But suddenly, Egg sees the two girls talking and asks what they are talking about, which makes them end up telling her the news. On the other hand, Bel decides to fight with the monster so that he create time for Hestia to run so far. And while almost being killed by the monster, Bel wonders if he could see Ise's face again, but he immediately tells himself that he would not want her to see him in such a state. Meanwhile, Ace has also begun to hunt and kill the monsters that escaped, and after defeating them one after the other, she asks Ina, who wonders if Bel is also safe about how many monsters are left. While fighting, Bel suddenly hears Hestia's voice and becomes shocked as he had told her to escape. Unfortunately, at that moment, the monster shifts its gaze from Bel to Hestia, which makes Bel's immediately run to carry Hestia away, as the monster tries to attack them. While they hide, Bel tells Hestia that they are both going to die. But as Hestia tries to give him the knife, Belle immediately carries her again on seeing that the monster is after them. Finally, they get to an enclosed place and Hestia gifts Belle the knife and calls it the Hestia knife. Seeing this, Belle begins to cry and Hestia assures him that he can beat the monster as she would be by his side. Then, while Hestia tries to connect the knife to Belle and activates the power of the knife, she becomes shocked at how powerful the knife is. Suddenly, the monster perceives them and sees where they are hiding, which makes Hestia tell Belle that he should go and defeat the monster because she believes in him. Belle goes ahead and immediately begins to fight with the monster as he remembers how Hestia has been supporting him, being the only family he has. After a while, Belle defeats the monster and Hestia becomes very excited, while Ayaz watches from a corner and sees the way Hestia is hugging Belle, who is very excited to defeat such a huge monster.
Yep.
All of a sudden, Hestia falls unconscious and Belle becomes scared, but the goddess who is after Belle watches from afar, and it turns out to be the goddess of beauty, Philia, who tells herself that she would see and play with Belle again. Worriedly, Belle takes Hestia to Mamma Mia's restaurant, and with Sir's help, they are able to get a bed as well. While Hestia sleeps, Belle thanks Sir for the help, while she tells him how she is attracted to him then leaves. Later, when Hestia wakes up, Belle asks Sir where she got the knife from as he can see an inscription of Hephaestus' name. Then Hestia confirms that she got it from Hephaestus, the god of smiths. Hestia adds that she knows he has been window shopping for the knife at Angelus' weapon shop and wants to help him. On hearing this, Belle bursts into tears and hugs Hestia. Belle goes to the guild to tell Ina that he explored the 7th floor of the dungeon. As his dungeon advisor, she becomes angry and begins to scold him, asking him why he had gone to the 7th floor because of how dangerous it is for him. At that moment, Belle tells her that he has grown since the last time he went to the dungeon, but she does not believe him, as he also adds that some of his stats are rank E to be sure. Ina takes Belle to a place in the guild and inspects his back to check his stats, only to find out he is not lying to her. Seeing this, she becomes happy for him and asks if he would be free the following day, which he tells her he would, and she tells him they should meet at a spot in town. The following day, Belle waits for Ina at the spot she had told him, and when arrives, she apologizes for coming late and asks Belle what he thinks about her dressing. At first, he is confused and immediately tells her that she is looking youthful, but suddenly, Ina grabs his head to tell her that she is young, as she tells him to apologize for calling her old. After, Belle asks Ina where they are going, and she tells him they are going to the Hephaestus shop in the Babel Tower. Then, Belle immediately becomes shocked as he tells her that he does not have enough money to buy something at the Hephaestus shop. Hearing this, Ina laughs at Belle and tells him to stop acting like a kid so that they can go. Getting to a floor of the tower, Belle sees that it is the Hephaestus shop, and he becomes shocked at the prices of the weapons there. But Ina tells him that their destination is the floor above them. As Belle continues to admire the weapons, Hestia comes out to welcome them, thinking they were other customers.
Oh my god! Wow!
Belle sees Hestia and asks her what she is doing in the store, but she ignores his question and asks Ina who she is. Ina introduces herself to Hestia and tells her how pleased she is. Also, Hestia ignores Ina's greetings and whispers to her that she must not abuse Belle's as his advisor, but Ina tells her that she keeps her personal life away from her business life. Then Hestia continues to glare at Ina till they both leave the shop. Soon, they get to their destination and Ina tells Belle that the floor is another extension of the Hephaestus brand, because the weapons made on the floor were made by beginners in the Familia, and they all sell their weapons cheap so as to put their own name outside as well. Belle goes to a part of the store and sees an armor that he likes, but when he checks the amount, he realizes that the amount of the amorg is basically all of the money he has left. Eventually, Belle buys the armor. Then Ina tells him to try to join a party or hire a supporter, and Belle tells her he would think about her suggestion. After leaving the shop, Ina gives Belle a protector and tells him to be careful anytime he goes to the dungeon, as adventurers tend to die quickly. She also adds that he should not die on her.
Wait a minute.
Belle accepts the gift and thanks her as he makes his way back home. On his way home, Belle gets hit by a little girl who is running away from an adventurer, and as the adventurer tries to hurt the girl, Belle immediately uses his knife to stop him. Suddenly, the adventurer tries to attack Belle, but he is stopped by an attendant from Mamma Mia's restaurant named Ryu, and the adventurer runs away. Grateful, Belle thanks Ryu for her help, but as she leaves, she tells him to be careful as Sire would not be happy if anything happens to him. Then Belle begins to look for the little girl he saved, but the girl seems to have gotten away. The following day, Belle goes to the dungeon, but he suddenly sees the little girl he had saved the previous day, who asks him if he needs a supporter and then introduces herself as Lilaruka. She urges Belle to hire her because of the way he touched her ears, which is her precious spot. Eventually, Belle hires Lily, and they both go into the dungeon where Belle fights a lot of creatures. And when he finishes, he tells Lily he is only able to focus because of her. There, Lily sees Belle's knife and asks him where he got it from. Just then, Belle reveals to her that he got it from his goddess, and proceeds to ask her of her familia, to which she replies that she belongs to the Soma Familia. Then, Lily begins to pick the gems from the creatures, and offers Belle another knife to cut the last creature while she stares at his knife. However, Belle goes to the guild, where he tells Ina about his new supporter from the Soma Familia, which makes her become uneasy as she tells him that the people from the Soma Familia are always desperate, as if they are scared for their lives. But then, when she asks Belle about his impression of Lily, he tells her that Lily is nice, and he was able to make more money because of her help. Later, Belle bids Ina goodbye, but as he is about to leave, Ina asks him where his knife is, and when he checks, he realizes that his knife is gone, and it was at this moment he realizes that he f***ed up. Meanwhile, Lily takes Belle's knife to a gnome who prices it at the rate of 30 velius, but Lily tells him that she cannot sell it at that rate, and leaves the shop as she begins to think of how the gnome wanted to dupe her. On her way, Lily meets Ryu and Sutter and immediately hides the knife, but Ryu sees her and immediately asks her to show her the knife she is hiding because it looks like the knife one of her friends has. Lily tells Ryu that the knife is for her, but instead, Ryu uses a coin to hit the knife off Lily's hand and yells that she only knows of one knife with hieroglyphs. On seeing this, Lily immediately runs away, leaving the knife behind, but suddenly jumps into Belle, who tells her that he has misplaced his knife. Just then, he sees Ryu and Sutter, who hands him his knife, and tells him that they saw it with a peril. Excited, Belle suddenly holds Ryu's hands to thank her, but she tells him not to act like that to her but to Sire.
Wait a minute!
Before Ryu and Sire leave, Ryu whispers to Lily's ears never to try any trick on Belle again. But as the ladies leave, Belle asks Lily if she would like to follow him to the dungeon the next day.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
The following day, Lily follows Belle into the dungeon and asks for his knife, and he tells her that he has kept it with his dungeon advisor, Ina, so that he would not lose it again. After defeating more creatures in the dungeon, Belle hires Lily formally, and when they count their profit for the day, they realize that they made up to 26,000 velius.
Oh my god! Wow!
Belle splits the reward into 2 equal parts and gives Lily a part while he takes the other. Then he asks if she would like to get something to eat with him. Seeing this, she becomes shocked because he does not try to take all of the profits alone. And when she asks him why, he tells her that he would not have made such profit alone. While showing off his bet's charm, Belle stretches his hand to Lily as he tells her that they have to keep it up. At the guild, Ina sees one of the Soma Familia nagging and complaining about how little his money is, which makes her begin to wonder if Belle would be alright with his new supporter. Meanwhile, Freya, the goddess of beauty, who is after Belle, tells herself that she only wanted to look at him from afar, but now she is ready to go after him. At home, Hestia drinks some grape juice with Maich, the goddess Belle met earlier, and begins to tell him how Ina wants to take Belle away from her. However, Maich tells her that Belle is not her property, but she refuses, saying that Belle is cheating on her.
Wait a minute!
Since he met his dungeon advisor. Suddenly, Hestia hits her huge cannons on the table while crying, and at the same time shining to confess how much she loves Belle. The following morning, Hestia begins to cry, making Belle wonder what is wrong with her as he gives her medicine to take. Then he asks her if she would be free the following day so as to treat her to a nice meal. On hearing this, Hestia jumps up and tells him that she is free at the moment so they could go on a date. She also goes to her wardrobe to get clothes, but changes her mind all of a sudden and tells Belle they should meet at Amour Square in the evening by 6. Later that evening, Belle waits for Hestia at the Amour Square, but begins to get uncomfortable as he sees different couples doing different things. Soon, Hestia arrives and asks Belle if she did not keep him waiting, but he tells her that he just arrived. Then, as Hestia tries to grab Belle's hand for them to go, some ladies suddenly shows up as they all gather around Belle to see the handsome demigod who captivated Hestia, which makes Hestia very angry as she grabs Belle, and they both begin to run away from the goddesses. After trying to escape all day, Belle and Hestia hide in a place where they both sit because of how exhausted they have been. There, Belle consoles Hestia that he would still treat her to a nice meal, which makes her unhappy immediately she hears that. Meanwhile, Lily goes to pay some adventurers who maltreat her, but they kick her out, telling her to go bring more money if she wants to gain her freedom from them. Later, Belle goes with Lily to the dungeon, and as Belle fights with the creatures, Lily uses her magic blade to help Belle out. When done, Belle shares his lunch with Lily, while she tells him of her plans to take the day off the following day because of the assembly she has in her familia, which he agrees with. The following morning, when Sir tries to give him his lunch as usual, he refuses it as he tells her that he is not going to the dungeon. Then, Belle sees a magic book in the restaurant and immediately borrows it from Sar, who tells him that a customer had forgotten it.
Wait a minute.
However, Belle takes the book in home and immediately begins to read about magic so as to awaken his own magical powers. Then suddenly, he sleeps off while he begins to dream of the kind of magic power he would like to possess. Moments later, Hestia gets home and wakes Belle up. Then, when they both check his stats, Hestia becomes shocked to see that Belle has gotten a magical power called Firebolt.
Oh my god! Wow!
Realizing this, Belle becomes excited as Hestia explains how he would be able to use his powers, and also tells him to try it in the dungeon the following day. Later that night, Belle leaves the house and goes into the dungeon so as to use his magical powers. On getting there, Belle gets excited and immediately uses his powers to kill the creatures he finds. Getting to a place in the dungeon, Belle becomes tired and suddenly passes out.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
Meanwhile, Ace and another member of the Loki Familia named Riveria, who were exploring the dungeon to defeat the floor boss, suddenly sees Belle, who is unconscious. Ace recognizes him and tells Riveria that he is the boy she had saved the previous day. Seeing this, Riveria asks if she wants to help him again, which she replies to that she has not been able to speak with Belle to apologize for what Bet said about him in the restaurant. However, Riveria leaves while Az watches over Belle, but the moment Belle regains his consciousness and sees Az, he immediately runs away while rolling like a huge boulder. On getting home, Belle begins to cry as he remembers what he had done. He realizes that he had f***ed up by running away on seeing Az. At that moment, Hestia wakes up and sees Belle crying. She asks if he had a nightmare because of the magic book he read the previous night. To verify, she picks up the book and suddenly realizes that it is not an ordinary book but a grimoire, a book that lets one use magic. Realizing this, Hestia tells Belle that the book would lose its effect once someone reads it, which makes Belle become scared as he thinks he has read what he is not supposed to. Immediately, Belle returns the book to the restaurant and apologizes for reading its content, and when he is told he should not pay for it, he tells them that he has to leave for the dungeon. Meanwhile, Aina meets Riveria and Loki in a place where they want to purchase some items. Then she immediately approaches Riveria to ask if she can ask Loki what she knows about the Soma Familia. Riveria agrees to help her by asking Loki, who tells Aina that the people of the Soma Familia do not worship a god but worship their booze. On the other hand, Belle goes to the entrance of the dungeon, and when he looks for Lily, he realizes that some adventurers are trying to bully her and tries to stop them. But one of them goes to meet him to join them, so as to rob Lily of her money and equipments as adventurers.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
Knowing this isn't right, Belle disagrees and chases the adventurers away. Getting to Lily, she asks him what he was discussing with the adventurer, but he tells her it is nothing and asks her what the adventurers want from her. She decides not to answer him by ignoring his question and leaves for the dungeon. On their way, Lily remembers what happened to her parents and how she has been fending for herself. She also remembers how other adventurers had stolen from her, but she has decided to gain her freedom from them by paying the people she owes and reminds herself how much she hates adventurers. Meanwhile, Aina gets invited to Loki's house, where Loki tells her all she knows about how the mean bees of the Soma Familia would do anything to get money in order to buy their original grape juice instead of the fake they sell. Then, Loki leaves with Az, and Aina begins to wonder how she would talk to Hestia and Belle about Lilikira, her supporter. However, Belle talks to Hestia about Lily, and explains that he notices that some adventurers are after her. He begs Hestia to let Lily live with them, for her to be safe from the adventurers that are trying to steal from her. But Hestia asks him if he is supposed to trust her with all that she has heard from him. The following day, Lily suggests to Belle that they explore the 10th floor, but he tells her he has heard about huge monsters being on the 10th floor. Yet Lily persuades him that he has the ability to defeat the monsters, which makes Belle agree and they go to the 10th floor. But on the other hand, Ina becomes worried about Belle, but also consoles herself as she is named the inspector of the Babel Tower, until she gets distracted from her thoughts on seeing eyes and decides to speak to her. Meanwhile, on getting to the 10th floor, Belle tells Lily not to stay close to him because it would be dangerous for her. There, Lily gives Belle another sword, as she tells him it would be okay for him because his original knife is too short for huge monsters. On the other hand, Az tells Ina that she saved Belle, which makes Ina thank her for helping him. Then, Az asks Ina if Belle is scared of her, because he is always running away anytime he sees her.
Yep.
While the two ladies talk, they suddenly overhear some adventurers talking about how Lily is supposed to take care of Belle once and for all, which makes Ina begin to panic and begs Az to help Belle. At the dungeon, Belle begins to get attacked by the huge monsters on the 10th floor, and while he fights them, he calls on Lily, only to realize she is no longer there. Concerned, Ina goes to Hestia in the Babel Tower, and when she tells her about Lily, Hestia tells her that Belle has made up his mind to help Lily. Meanwhile, Belle continues to fight with the monsters, but soon gets overpowered as he suddenly sees Lily, who uses a tool to take his knife from him.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
Lily escapes but is suddenly stopped by an adventurer who collects everything she has except Belle's knife, which she kept in her socks. The adventurers beat her up and leave her to die as they lure some giant ants to eat her up. At that moment, Lily begins to regret her actions towards Belle, telling herself she is supposed to die because of how badly she had treated Belle, even though he has been nice to her. On the other hand, Belle gets saved by someone he does not know. Because of the mist in the 10th floor, he is unable to see that it was Az that saved him again. Having been saved, Belle runs off and Az becomes sad that she is unable to apologize to him again. Then Belle sees Lily and immediately saves her from the giant ants. Seeing him, Lily becomes shocked and asks why he has come to save her, which he tells her is because she reminds him of how lonely he was before he met Hestia. Hearing this, she begins to cry and confesses how she had tricked him and stolen his money as well, but he tells her it is okay. Then, Belle touches her ears and tells her that he was not sure that shape-shifting magic existed, so she should lay low as everyone will think that she died in the dungeon and will not suspect her. Then she asks him if he is comfortable with this, since as she took advantage of his kindness and betrayed him. Surprisingly, Belle smiles and tells her not to worry about it as he is not angry with her, and tells her he has forgiven her. They arrive at Belle's house and Lily immediately introduces herself to Hestia, who begins to ask her if she is very capable of supporting Belle since she is his supporter. Lily assures and tells her that she will protect him with her life. Then, Hestia tells her she will believe her, but also informs her that she hates her because she has deceived Belle for so long, and now she has returned to try and win her over. Immediately, Lily begins to feel bad after hearing these words from Hestia, as she begins to feel guilty of all that has been said to her. After a minute of silence, Hestia starts to beg her to take care of Belle, as she would not want anything to happen to him. Also, Hestia tells her to prove herself in making up for what she has caused him. Just then, Hestia introduces herself to Lily, and tells her not to come between her and Belle. On hearing this, Lily immediately takes off her robes and grabs Belle by the hand. Finding himself in this situation, Belle panics and rushes out of the building to see Ina, while he leaves the girls to argue. Belle arrives at the guild and immediately begins to look for Ina, but he notices that she is not anywhere to be found, until he suddenly hears his name, and when he turns to see who is calling him, he sees Ina with Az and begins to run. While he tries to escape, he stumbles on someone's chest, which makes Az immediately flies up. Az tells her that she only came there to return what he left at the dungeon while battling the Minotaur, and she also wants to apologize for allowing it to escape. Hearing this, Belle tells her he should be the one apologizing because he has always been avoiding her, after all she has done for him, and they both smile at each other. On the way out, Az tells him he is putting so much effort in dungeon diving, as she is surprised how he can reach the 10th floor so fast. Hearing this, Belle tells her getting to the 10th floor is nothing as he still has a lot to learn, since he does not have anyone to teach him how to fight. At that moment, Az decides to put it upon herself and offers to teach Belle how to fight, which surprises him. The following day, Az asks Belle what he would like to do first, but to begin with, she would like to see his weapon, then proceeds to ask him if he is good in hand-to-hand combat. While trying to explain, Belle receives a very huge kick on his face from Az, which swings him far away. Then, Belle realizes that Ace is a blonde inside and out. Immediately, she apologizes and tells him that they need to spar. She draws out her weapon, but uses the sheath and notices that he is now actively looking at hers and begins to tell him why he always needs to be fierce in battle. While they fight, Ace tells him that he lacks special skills in battle, but Belle assures her that they should continue. During the fight, Ace notices he is trying to take advantage of a spot and decides she uses it against him. The following day, Belle and Lily go to the dungeon as usual. But on getting there, they are suddenly attacked by monsters, which Belle uses the teaching he got from Ace, as well as Lily's help to take out. To their surprise, more monsters begin to show up from the smoke. Seeing this, Lily suggests they retreat so as to regroup. But Belle tells her that if he does that, he will not catch up with Ace's skill. Then, he goes ahead to attack the monsters. Later, he returns back to his training with Ace, where they continue to fight, and she keeps knocking him out over and over again. However, he wakes up for the last time and tells her he wants to stop, while she asks where he gets his strength from. He reveals to her that there is someone he is trying to be better than, who she tells him she totally understands. Then she tells him that they should practice napping because in the dungeon, he needs to learn how to fall asleep at any time. After the training, Ace decides to take him to the city, while Belle wonders where she is taking him to. She, however, tells him that she is aware he is hungry, and she is too. Therefore, they need to get something to eat. Getting to the store, Belle sees Hestia, who, having seen him, immediately jumps on him and asks what he is doing with the lady, which he begins to apologize for. Later that evening, Belle tells Hestia everything going on between he and Ace, which makes her begin to threaten Ace not to go near him or even try to seduce him. The following day, while Belle is walking alone in the street of the city, he surprisingly sees Cesar, who tells him how much she has missed him, and manages to trick him into washing plates for her. Noticing her trick, Belle decides to help, having realized it will help him take his mind off the things he has been thinking about lately, which has been bothering him. Suddenly, Ryu comes in and offers to help him, after seeing how much the work is for him to handle alone. While washing the plates, Belle asks Ryu how one can become stronger, which he decides to answer by telling him everything he ought to know about how he can become stronger. There she tells him he will need a party and some special skills if he wants to get stronger. Hearing this, Belle immediately sees that all she is saying is similar to what he has heard from Ace, and begins to ponder more about all Ryu is saying. Then, Ryu gives him an advice by telling him he is an adventurer and needs to disregard whatever is bothering him and focus on what is necessary to being an adventurer. Later at day, Belle goes back to the training, and Ace could see that he managed to counterattacks. After the training ends and Ace have left, Belle begins have the determination that he has to catch up with Ace's skill, by working hard to get to that level. After, he goes back home to see Hestia to tell him that his training with Ace is over, as he begins to prepare to go for the expedition to the depth of the dungeon. At the entrance of the dungeon, they are grouped in two to hasten the exploration. Then they are asked to head in. In the dungeon, Belle and Lily are alone, until suddenly, Belle stops having noticed that someone is watching them. He immediately tells Lily, who also confirms that something feels odd about the floor, and he tells her to follow him closely. As they continue to move, suddenly, they hear a loud noise coming towards them, and Belle sees it as a huge minotaur. At that moment, Lily becomes scared as she wonders what it is doing on the ninth floor. Immediately, she advises Belle to follow her as they are not ready to fight the monster yet, but he has been carried away in his thought, until Lily calls his attention to what is happening around him. Unfortunately, the monster has gotten closer by this time and tries to attack Belle, but Lily pushes him away to save him. At that point, Belle stands up to see that Lily has been knocked out. He pushed her away and tries to use his firebolt to bring the monster down, but all to no avail. Then the monster pushes him away with its sword, which makes Belle realize that the monster is very strong for him to handle, and begins to seek for an opening for them to escape. Meanwhile, the other adventurers has learnt of the Minotaur on the 8th floor and have immediately moved out to go help Belle. Lily, on the other hand, wakes up to see that Belle is still battling the monster, but he instructs her to run away, which she immediately obeys, knowing that if he attempts to run away also, the monster might kill Lily. Then he decides to continue fighting it. Eventually, the monster overpowers Belle after a series of attacks, and while Belle sees that he has been injured, he suddenly sees Ace, who had come to help him. At that moment, he believes he cannot allow her to save him again, and immediately stands up to fight the monster on his own. At that moment, the other adventurers show up and begin to worry about him. Seeing that he is in level 1, and may not be able to handle the monster on his own. Suddenly, to their surprise, they see that he is actually beating the monster after taking down one of its hands. Then he uses its own blade to cut it in pieces, and uses his firebolt ability to take it out, while the other adventurers watch in awe and wonder how he is able to do it on his own.